Welcome to Creepypasta. Please like, share and subscribe. This will help us make more content for you. Thank you.
My great-great-grandparents went into an alternate dimension. This story has been told to me a few times by my maternal grandma. She is a spiritual woman who has always been in tune with spirits, energies, etc., and she isn't the type of person to lie about something like this. Each time the details are the same. My great-grandparents, grandma's parents, I don't know their names. We can call them Jane and John, lived on a farm in New Jersey in the outskirts of a town. This particular thing happens on a Sunday. Story: Jane and John are walking into town in the afternoon, probably 1 or 2 p.m. They like to stroll around and be the typical older couple. They've lived in this area for upwards of 20 years, so they know the entire town like the back of their hands. They're friends with everyone, as this town is a small everyone knows everyone type of place. So, they're walking around, no aim in mind. They comment on how sunny it is, and how there isn't a cloud in the sky. They absent-mindedly turn down a street. They then see a bridge that they have never noticed before. Confused, they decide to go investigate as they no rush to go anywhere else. They go over to the bridge, and comment on how they've never noticed it before. They're dumbfounded, how have they never seen this bridge before? There's nothing else back this way that they know of, so what does it lead to? Naturally, they go over the bridge. It's beautiful, cast iron, floral decorations, all the good stuff. It puts them out in on a random street that they don't recognize, but that is assumed to be the middle-ish of town. There is anyone else out, which is odd. They aren't alarmed by this, but they're alert. They walk around a bit more, not really taking notice of anything else too drastically different. Once they're done with their walk, they head home and ask everyone else about this bridge. "What bridge?" everyone replied. They are obviously shocked. They sit down with each other and discuss the experience. They both agree on a simple fact: they went onto a street that wasn't there. That street led to a bridge that wasn't there. There were buildings that weren't real. They went to this entirely new thing that wasn't real and somehow made it back. They talk about how it had clouded over a bit, no one else was walking around, they don't really recognize the area, but based off of where they thought they were, it seemed like the names of businesses were slightly off. A shop that was called Dave's could be Dan's or something, not anything major, but they couldn't be 100% sure. My grandma agrees with me in that she thinks tiny things were altered, but they may not have noticed or mentioned it to anyone outside of themselves. The thing that is always emphasized to me when being told this story is how no one else was outside. This happened in World War II, cars weren't commonplace. Everyone walked everywhere. So where was everyone? My grandma's parents made a huge grid of the streets of the town and made a point to walk down every single road to find the one with the bridge on it. My grandma's father was a very methodical man, and he devised a plan to find the street and the bridge again, as they couldn't remember the street name or how they got there. They used the huge grid, which they spent weeks on, to rule out every direction and possible route. They never found the mystery street with the bridge. Her dad even consulted the city planners, who would look at him and ask, "What bridge?" just like the family did.
My grandmother made cancer disappear. My grandmother is the strongest person I ever knew. I'm not sure if it's a glitch or just a medical mystery, but my grandmother was an expert in making cancer disappear. I have no idea how she did this, but in total she did it 3 times. Honestly, I really hope I have her genes. The first 2 times I wasn't born yet, she got breast cancer, then cervical cancer. She had surgery for her breast and that's it. She didn't take yearly consults, she no longer saw her doctor. She never got long treatments, like chemo or medication. I thought that was a bit weird, because these days cancer patients keep seeing their doctors to be sure a cancer is in remission. Yet somehow this was considered normal in our family. She was healthy. It was a long time ago, so why would she need a doctor? That's just her personality. She can recover very fast, and that was that. No treatments, no medication, nothing. The cancer was not in remission, they took it away, and that was the end of the story. When she was 90, her health was getting worse. They did some tests and found out she had colorectal cancer. Very aggressive, there was nothing they could do. They decided to let her home, so she could die in the comfort of her home. They gave her 1 to 2 weeks left. Because I believe in manifestation, I asked the family to keep the diagnosis secret. Just make her believe nothing's wrong and that's why she can go home. They all agreed because they didn't want her to be afraid of death for weeks. A month went by and she was starting to get better. After all, she truly believed she was healthy. We decided to bring her to the doctor again because she was way past the date which was given to us and we were worried it turned into a long-term cancer. The tests showed she didn't have cancer at all. Actually, there were no traces she ever had cancer. The only proof she used to have cancer was the big scar where her breast used to be and the previous positive tests. Her blood work was excellent, she no longer had any symptoms, she was back to her old self. The doctors considered a false positive or a spontaneous remission. She lived for another 2 years until one day she was falling apart by osteoporosis. She was brought to the hospital. High on morphine, she was given a few more days. I was the only family member she didn't see yet. When she knew I was coming, it was as if she collected all her energy, giving her the ability to live a week longer than expected. When I visited, she looked so much better than what my family claimed. I really thought she could do it again. But what she actually did was wait, because she really wanted to say goodbye to everyone. She thought it was time to go. She used all her life force to see me that day. We left and she died that same night peacefully. She was 92 and a 3-time cancer survivor. Cancers which, on paper, went from terminal to non-existent. If you ever needed hope in manifesting health, I hope she inspired you. Thanks for reading.
Comments. Reluctant to share, but I have similar personal story about manifesting health. The short and sweet version. I was knocked unconscious and paralyzed playing a sport recently. I knew I was immediately paralyzed when I regained consciousness. I couldn't move anything but my mouth and couldn't feel any sensation at all. Panic started to kick in. After about an hour of laying face down waiting for paramedics to move me, I finally was able to feel the smallest bit of sensation as I was touched on my leg. The amount of relief that took over my body at that point. I wish I could say I knew for certain that I would get better. The feeling of progressing past complete paralysis and loss of sensation was a weight being lifted off my body, a sign that things were somehow going to be okay. A surgery 3 days later coupled with only a month of physical and occupational therapy had me 90% recovered. Sprinting, lifting, playing sports. The manifesting health part. After I felt sensation on my leg, my entire attitude changed. I was still messed up, but I somehow had the strongest belief that everything would be okay, wasn't on drugs. Doctors and therapists telling me I would never be the same. All were wrong. My physical health is almost as if nothing happened at all. The freaky part. I went from paralyzed to fine in 4 weeks' time. It's felt like a glitch to me. Ramble over.
That's pretty amazing. I don't think it was a glitch, but your own brain power, manifestation power. So big congrats to you for making such a fast recovery possible. Your story is very similar to my stepdad. He nearly died in a motorbike accident. Doctors thought of amputating his leg, he refused. So they did this crazy surgery of putting shoulder muscles in his leg. Physical therapy, instead of a year, it lasted only a few months. Psychologists asked if he cared to join some research about how mindset can improve recovery because at that time, everyone was blown away by his fast recovery and they wanted to turn it into a paper. Then much later, he got cancer. He needed revalidation for 3 weeks after surgery. After a week, he said goodbye to the nurses and went home. LOL to this guy, he's been through so much and he's like this punk which the nurses can't stop from leaving. With punk I mean the music lifestyle. He may have lost his ripped jeans, but he never lost his punk attitude.
I believe in modern medical science. It has vast capabilities that can't be replicated with our thoughts alone. That said, I recommend reading You Are the Placebo by Dr. Joe Dispenza, some eye-opening and science-based readings about the power of the mind. I don't know if I can trust all the miraculous stories I've read in that book, but to me the mind is more powerful than we give it credit for. The strength of the mind is an idea that the book reinforces over and over. The placebo effect is very powerful, if we want it to be. That is essentially what I got from the book. It's interesting to think about and necessary to study fully.
Do you have a creepy story? Please share it with us in the comments and we will post it on the channel. Please subscribe. Thank you.